The White Sox stunned the Red Sox last weekend with a series win in Chicago. It's round 2 in Boston, and let's discuss if the Red Sox can show that they are the better team or if the White Sox can continue to shock on a crossover edition of Locked On White Sox, Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, I'm Todd Welter, host of Locked On White Sox, a lifelong Sox fan, and the site expert at SouthsideShowdown.com, part of the FanSided Network, and also I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And I'm here with Gabby Hurlbut, host of Locked On Red Sox. And Gabby, you feel like giving your credentials?
Sure. Yeah. Hi. As you Locked On Red Sox listeners probably have memorized by now, former ESPN social media associate covering all sports with baseball, always having been my favorite. I also host the Boston Balling podcast as well as Locked On Red Sox. So you can, follow me on social media wherever to completely follow my baseball coverage.
And thanks for making Locked On White Sox and Locked On Red Sox your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure to hit the like button on today's episode, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox and at Locked On Red Sox if you've not done so already. Also follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. On today's episode, Gabby and I will go over the upcoming series at Fenway, and if the Garrett Crochet and Shane Smith can put up another great show on Saturday, along with my hopes for Dave O'Brien being loud wrong for forever. All right, so first, Gabby, I got to ask, how much did Red Sox Nation melt down after the White Sox took 2 of 3 from Boston?
Very, very much so. And one thing you should know about Red Sox fans in general is people are very reactionary. People are very much super extreme. So if they suffer a bad loss, the season's over. If they win a good game, we're winning the World Series. There's not really an in-between there. It's really just one of those two polar opposite things. So let me tell you, after they completely dropped the ball in game 1 doing whatever it was that we saw, not playing baseball, people were like, there's no hope for this team. We suck. We are not going to go anywhere this year. We were supposed to get better in the offseason and we didn't. This is ridiculous. Then game 2 comes around and people have calmed down a little bit, but are still angry from game 1. But I'm like, all right, we have to at least win the series because it's the White Sox. Then game 2 happens and the Red Sox offense is non-existent once again. And they lose that game in a very painful way. And everybody was really like, all right, I'm throwing it in the towel. I'm not watching another game this season. So yeah, that was about where we were at with that.
I'm just laughing because it's just 2 losses in April. I mean, the White Sox did somehow manage to win 41 games last year. I mean, and none of that, the White Sox are being talked about, like, even if they're going to win 60 games this year, it's because of variance. I mean, variance does happen. So it's just, it's funny to me. And not only that, what's even more funnier was 16-1 loss to the Rays on Monday. I mean, you guys are out puffing your chest. I mean, does it seem like Red Sox Nation sort of maybe has an inflated sense of self, especially with the 10-10 start?
Yeah, I think, people's expectations were high going into this season. People are like, we have a good shot this year. We have a really talented roster. And I think what people are failing to really think about in that regard is just how early in the season it really is right now. And I keep saying to people, look, like, I'm just as frustrated. This offense should be hitting a lot better than it is. But on the flip side of that, they should be hitting a lot better than they are because they have the talent as an offense to be able to hit. I'm like, it's mid-April. We have time to figure things out. But I think when it comes to the way that the Red Sox started the season, people were like, wow, is this team not going to be as good as we think because they have all these issues early on? And it seems to be the same recurring issues over and over again. So like, what are we doing? Because I mean, the other big issue that this Red Sox team has had is the defensive errors, because that was something that was painfully bad. I mean, 5 errors in a game is just unacceptable. And you have Alex Bregman at third base and Trevor Story at shortstop, 2 known very good defenders. And then they come to Boston and all of a sudden those 2 are not helping the infield defense. And people are rattled. People are like, well, we were supposed to fix these issues because the Red Sox last year made tons of errors and now they are making more errors. And so people are saying, are we going to see the same cycle over and over again? Is it going to be the same season again this year? But again, people, friendly reminder at how early on in the season it is. And I keep referring to the Tigers last year because the Tigers last year really didn't turn things on until the second half of the season. And then, were competitive in the playoffs. I mean, it's so early still that unless you're probably the Braves who had playoff aspirations and really feel like you can't get there at this point, if you're anybody else, and the Red Sox right now are 500 and they've dealt with a lot of injuries and they've dealt with all these defensive miscues. So people can't act like it's the end of the world right now. That's just unreasonable.
Yeah, I'm just cracking up because I would kill for a 10-10 start right now. The White Sox are I think now 4-14 now and put up one of the worst offensive displays that I've ever seen against the Athletics. And remember, it's the Athletics. You can't say Oakland, you can't say Sacramento. It's the Athletics. I mean, they looked horrendously awful. And none of that, it feels like now Boston's going to be the White Sox get right team because the White Sox went into that series just absolutely limping. They got crushed by the Tigers and the Guardians. And again, you got the Red Sox puffing their chests, and then there's the White Sox getting a get-right game because Sean Newcomb was on the mound. That seems like you guys have a pretty bad state right now with all those injuries, right?
Yeah, and then the weirdest thing is Sean Newcomb pitched for the Red Sox in Wednesday's game and was lights out. Like this past Wednesday, he pitched a shutout into the fifth inning. So he looked great. It was a completely different pitcher. And that's the thing that I noticed about that start in particular was I said, wow, he's getting a lot more swing and miss stuff here. And he has a lot better command of the strike zone than what we've seen from him before. A lot of his off speed stuff is better. And his fastball was a little bit stronger. Velocity was a little bit up in his last start. So something changed with him. He had a really good start against Tampa Bay. However, it's short-lived. He's probably going to be DFA'd would be my guess because the Red Sox are getting reinforcements on the pitching side as early as this weekend.
So for the Red Sox, I believe it's Patriots Day, White Sox, Red Sox, and at some point Sean Burke is going to throw. He is now definitely struggling right now after that amazing opening day start. So for Red Sox fans freaking out that, okay, here comes the White Sox into town, they're going to maybe potentially ruin our day. Yes, Martin Perez goes Friday. The one thing that I definitely want to talk about, Garrett Crochet and Shane Smith, round 2 on Saturday. Can it live up to the first matchup? Because I loved that Shane Smith met the moment. He is basically our hope right now for the White Sox. And Garrett Crochet, obviously, the ghost of Ace Pass. Both of them had a great duel. You hoping that they can, have a good round 2?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I love strong pitchers duels. I know not everybody does because some people find it boring because they just want offense, but I love it. I find it so intriguing. And, the biggest thing I'll say about Garrett Crochet is he's 100% living up so far to what the Red Sox traded for. They traded for a guy who's going to be that lockdown number 1 starter. And so far he's been that. I mean, legitimately had a no-hitter going into the 8th inning, which very well, and we both know very well who broke up that no-hitter, which we obviously can also discuss too. But I really am happy with what I've seen from Garrett Crochet so far, because obviously when you trade for somebody like that, you have high hopes that that person is going to be what you are hoping that they'll be, which is that true number 1 starter, but you obviously don't know for sure if that is going to happen. So far, he 100% has been that. And what really helps is that some of the other pitchers in the Red Sox rotation are struggling right now a little bit more than they were anticipated to struggle. And I think having Crochet there as that true number 1 really helps to ease our minds every 5 days of, Crochet's on the bump tomorrow, so it's going to be okay. So I'm really excited for that matchup. I'm definitely super intrigued for Saturday.
And the reason why I'm intrigued about it too, and hopefully you've gotten the same vibes. I mean, Garrett Crochet is a dude, and he was giving off those vibes very early last year. Guess who's giving off the same vibes when you watch him pitch? It's Shane Smith. And this was a Rule 5 pick. This is a guy that the Milwaukee Brewers, with all their injuries to the rotation, were still like, yeah, we don't have a spot for him. And they allowed him to be available in the Rule 5 draft. The White Sox pick him up. The guy teaches himself a changeup. That was the other thing that nobody knew. He taught himself his own changeup. And if I do recall, he's from the Boston area. Mike Vassell from the Boston area. Sean Burke, I believe, is from the Boston area. The 3 guys that the White Sox are hoping for are going to be pitching in Fenway. So that's pretty neat. But that's why I'm really looking forward to this Garrett Crochet, Shane Smith matchup. And I do want to talk about Chase Meidroth in the next segment, because let's give Red Sox Nation an update on what they could have had if they didn't trade all those prospects for Garrett Crochet after the break on this crossover edition of Locked On White Sox, Locked On Red Sox. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's upwork.com, upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Welcome back on to the crossover edition of Locked On White Sox, Locked On Red Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter, the host of Locked On White Sox, and I'm with Gabby Hurlbut, the host of Locked On Red Sox. And, I didn't want to have you see, Gabby just watch me read a commercial. So that's why I went to the single cell. It wasn't me trying to big time Gabby here, there on that type of stuff. Make sure to hit the like button on today's episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox or at Locked On Red Sox if you're not done so today. And if you can't get the show on YouTube, Locked On White Sox and Locked On Red Sox is available on all major podcast platforms. So make sure to follow or subscribe on places such as Apple or Spotify. Either way, get your 30-minute fix of Chicago White Sox baseball venting or with me, or Red Sox venting with Gabby. All right, so as much as it pained me to see Crochet get that $170 million from the Red Sox instead of the White Sox, Gabby, it feels like he's just taking this game to another level. I know we talked a little bit about him in the first segment, but I just want to focus in on, he looked like an absolute bona fide Cy Young winner against the White Sox and through his first 4 games.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And the reason why this is so great as a Red Sox fan to see is just because it's been a while since the Red Sox have had a true number one starter. I mean, they've had guys that they thought could maybe turn into a number one, but they haven't been able to look at their starting rotation and say, yep, this is no doubt our number one. And that is what Crochet provides. That is the guy that, you throw out there in game 1 of a playoff series that, okay, this guy's going to go out there and he's going to get it done. And the biggest thing for me when it comes to Crochet is he going to be able to stay healthy? Because that was obviously something that I know last year was something that could have possibly been a concern. But, so far, no issues there either. Completely healthy, just goes out there and just pounds that strike zone, and guys just have no answer for him. And I think when it comes to the Red Sox rotation right now, having him in that number one spot just makes the rotation feel like it's in a lot better shape. And unfortunately, there's another guy named Richard Fitz in their rotation who just went on the IL, but was also having some really dominant starts too. And then they are going to be getting some reinforcements back in Brian Bayo and Lucas Giolito to add to that rotation again. And you almost feel like this rotation is in a lot better spot than it was because you have that number one. And we didn't have that for the last few seasons. Definitely need to clean up the guys who are throwing in the number 2 and number 3 spots. Walker Buehler and Tanner Houck, I'm looking at the two of you, need to, be a little bit more consistent and get with the program this year. But Garrett Crochet as a true number one is giving you what a true number one would give you. And being able to pitch into the 8th inning, that game was huge. I mean, he also threw 8 full innings of giving up no runs against the Orioles in one of his other starts. So I was like, wow, this is a guy who legitimately is giving us what we need. And I know people are looking back at the trade and saying, well, we gave up too much for Garrett Crochet, but it's hard to say that now with the level of baseball that he's playing right now.
Especially when strikeouts are becoming more and more expensive, and it costs $170 million. Now, for the White Sox, they were never going to pay that, and that's one of the frustrating reasons why they had to trade Garrett Crochet. On the flip side, they did need the talent infusion. They did need Chase Meidroth, Kyle Teal, Braden Montgomery, and Winkelman Gonzalez. And when we last spoke, you said you would miss some of the prospects the Red Sox gave up, but there just wasn't a spot for a guy like Chase Meidroth, was there?
No, the Red Sox and the depth that they have right now at the minor league levels, he was kind of getting roadblocked. I mean, they have Christian Campbell, who is basically playing every day in the infield right now. And then, they have Marcelo Meyer, who's eventually going to be coming up to play shortstop. And then, you have other talented prospects in the system. So ultimately, it kind of made sense to trade him when they did. And, Alex Cora spoke very highly of Meidroth. He said, this kid works really hard. They're really lucky to have him. He's going to go out there and he's just going to attack on his at-bats. And you can see that. I mean, he looked so confident against the Red Sox in that series. And it was almost like he wanted to, show his new team that they made the right choice in trading for him. And I was really happy for him. It was nice to see him go out there and get some hits, especially in a big spot, obviously, and, breaking up Crochet's no-hitter. And as much as it might be difficult for us Red Sox fans to experience the early success that he is having, ultimately, like you said, there wasn't really a spot for him. He wasn't really going to play just because of how much young talent the Red Sox do have right now. So this was the time to trade him, especially if it involves getting a guy like Crochet.
Well, and the process that the Red Sox took was correct. They were the one team that could easily have traded for a Crochet, gave up the package, and not miss a beat. They were fine with that. Also, then recognizing, hey, we should pay Crochet is good process, even though paying, I don't know if I would have paid him 170 million even after one good season. I mean, clearly you're seeing now that yes, it's gonna be worth every penny because he does this thing called throw strikes, and that makes it really, really hard to beat him. The only thing that I would suggest any team to do is I would try to load up lefties against him because he will hang a slider, because when he tries to get it down in the zone, I've seen him too many times hang that slider up, and it will go a country mile if you can get a piece of it. But otherwise, he's the real deal Holyfield on that. When it comes to Chase Meidroth, look at this stat, though, this line that he is, and this is where the value he provides. He's got a 235 average. You want to know what his slugging is? 235, but his on-base percentage, 409. The guy is the modern-day Greek god of walks, and he's actually kind of what the White Sox were hoping to Nick Madrigal would have been when they used that number, that top 5 pick in the 2018 draft on him, because he can actually run. He's smart on the base paths. He's actually a very good defender. And yeah, he's willing to win an at bat. That's what I love about Meidroth. He's got all the mental makeup. I don't know if he's going to be an all-star player. I don't know if he's going to be a centerpiece. And yes, I would have kept Christian Campbell over Chase Meidroth, but he is exactly what you need, and that is a very good player. Now, if the Red Sox do not win a championship, and say this trade yields the White Sox at least 3 core players, would this be ranked as the White Sox winning the trade in Red Sox Nation?
It depends what the time frame would be for winning a championship. I mean, the fact that they extended Crochet makes me feel like, it kind of works out well for both teams, because I think this would have been seen as a major loss of a trade for the Red Sox if they couldn't get a deal done with Crochet, and he ended up becoming a free agent, and then they basically got nothing for him, and they gave up this haul of prospects for him. I do think that, yes, if they don't win a single World Series in the time that Crochet is here, counting, the years that he's extended for, then yes, I would say at that point that, maybe the Red Sox lost the trade, but also even so, that's still so hard to definitively say, because if Crochet is giving you consistently ace caliber stuff and everybody else isn't performing and they don't win a championship, then that says more about everybody else than Crochet. I think from a talent standpoint and what these two teams needed, it benefits both teams. But if the payoff for the Red Sox, which is the ultimate goal of winning a World Series championship, doesn't work out with him here after they made this big trade, then yes, I think people might look back on it and say, wow, we depleted some of our future and we couldn't even win with this guy, because, it's similar to with Chris Sale when the Red Sox traded for him, but they won a World Series out of it with him. And, that is where I'm kind of at. I think people among Red Sox Nation will look at this as not getting everything we needed from it if we don't win the World Series. And if the White Sox get these players and they all go off and be very, very solid contributors for you guys, that sets you guys up for success for a long time. Then, yeah, I think it would be easy at that point to look back and say that it benefited the White Sox in the longer term more.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Sale trade, because that's where I was kind of going with. Red Sox clearly won the Sale trade. They get the World Series win. That they do extend them. But not only that, yes, for a brief moment, the White Sox did get two core pieces in that trade. But then it turned out to be part of the metaphor of how this franchise decayed into its current state, in that Michael Kopech just became a complete basket case, did not listen to his pitch plan at all. And Yoan Moncada, once he got paid, stopped taking care of himself. Just stopped. That's reportedly what happened. He was just like, man, I don't need to lift. I don't need to really work hard. I don't really need to do anything. I can get by in talent. And he was always hurt. And they literally had to pay to make him go away. That's what happened. And then Michael Kopech goes to the, he has to switch agents. He has to have literally Scott Boras. I believe, this is just me projecting, I believe Scott Boras had to have a come to Jesus moment with him and say, if you don't listen to your pitch plan, man, you will not be in the major leagues. He starts, the White Sox flip him in one of the worst trades so far that they've made in the Chris Getz era. So that just shows you how much the Red Sox won that deal. But I think the only way the Red Sox can claim total victory is they got the World Series win with Sale. Whereas if they don't get it with Crochet, I just know how Red Sox Nation is, it will be the end of the world. Just like.
And especially now, because of how clear they made it going into this past offseason that they're done messing around and they want to win again. And they made some moves this offseason that were impactful enough to where they should have built a roster that can win. Obviously, they are not performing up to standards for what a lot of people would expect from them right now, but they say they want to win, and they have to go out, and the results have to show that. So, yes, I do agree with you. I think they need to get the World Series win, at least one, in order to say, yeah, okay, we are completely satisfied, even with the guys that we gave up to get Crochet.
All right, Red Sox TV play-by-play announcer Dave O'Brien had some harsh words to say before the White Sox and Red Sox series in Chicago, and awful announcing did not let him forget about being loud wrong. Let's discuss my hope for the White Sox making him wear that bad take for forever next on the crossover edition of Locked On White Sox, Locked On Red Sox. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Welcome back to a crossover edition of Locked On White Sox, Locked On Red Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter of Locked On White Sox. I'm with Gabby Hurlbut, host of Locked On Red Sox, and we shout out to all our everydayers. We appreciate your loyalty. Please hit the like button on today's episode. Recommend to your fellow Sox fans, whether it's Boston or White Sox, or baseball fans, friends, to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox or at Locked On Red Sox, or wherever they get their podcasts, as both shows are available on all major podcast platforms. So, Gabby, it's not like I don't know the White Sox find ways to lose games, but I don't need Dave O'Brien's comments last Thursday making it obvious and saying the obvious thing out loud. And that's why I want to have this discussion on. I hope O'Brien lives it forever of being loud wrong with his hot take of, well, the White Sox find a way to lose games. And then Will Middlebrooks being like, yeah, we can't wait to go to Chicago. Man, that was just a jour, because I know Lawrence Holmes on 670 The Score in Chicago was like saying, he basically put it right. keep our name out your mouth. We know we're bad. But you can't say this about our guys. There are bad guys. Okay. So I'm just enjoying this. What's the Red Sox were like? Were they like, Dave, why did you have to do that?
Yeah, obviously at the time, everybody was like, well, yeah, I mean, the White Sox trip definitely is coming up at a good time with all these recent struggles that this Red Sox team has had. So what better way than to go to Chicago and play a team like that? And people at the time were like, yeah, I mean, I agree. Then, of course, the series unfolds, or even after the first game of the series unfolded, I would say. There were Red Sox fans on Twitter that were like, Dave O'Brien jinxed us. Like, how could he say those things out loud? Like, you shouldn't be saying stuff like that because now it caused us to lose a series against these lowly White Sox, and now they're going to beat us again at Fenway. And it started escalating into all these other thoughts about what's going to happen in the future. But he has to hope that the Red Sox come back and win this upcoming series this weekend, because then at least like some semblance of like something that he said could be like, all right, well, at least we didn't like lose the season series against the Chicago White Sox. Like, he needs to hope that the Red Sox at least take 2 of 3 at home this weekend. Ideally, a sweep, or it's a 4-game series. So obviously a sweep would be nice, but it's hard to sweep a 4-game series as it is. So, I mean, not having high hopes for that aspect of it, but people were mad because people felt like truly those two, him and Middlebrooks, like jinxed us in that series, because people kind of wrote off the White Sox, which I found interesting anyway, because over the last couple seasons, the Red Sox have struggled against the White Sox. Like, the White Sox have beaten us the last couple seasons a good amount. And so I kind of was surprised by that a little bit, because I was like, hang on, like, maybe we should take like a little bit of a step back. I was like, we know that the White Sox are a bad team, but they managed to beat us. So, like, is that going to happen again, or will this be the year that those fortunes get switched? And sure enough, the Red Sox bats decided that they couldn't hit in Chicago again, like we had seen in the series against the Blue Jays. So I was like, all right, like, let's take a step back here and understand that this is a team that, even though they might not be very good, they still managed to beat us, because they beat the Red Sox last year too.
Chef's kiss. Because the other thing that I think he completely forgot was Steve Stone, the White Sox, television analyst, basically, worked with Harry Carey, one of the best in the business. He said, I remember last year, I think it was the 12-game losing streak the White Sox had, or it was the 14. He said, basically, the White Sox are going to beat the Red Sox and snap their streak because, and then he cited, they had Garrett Crochet going. They were going to do this, this, and this. Where Dave, O'Brien, where O'Brien just was like, well, they just find ways to lose games, completely ignoring that, yes, the White Sox have White Sox, but variance ran against the White Sox so many times last year. They barely, if ever, ran into a pitcher like Sean Newcomb, just having a bad day, just not his stuff not working, or again, a team booting the ball around 5 times. And the other thing is, I just want to be like, maybe you guys just aren't as good as you think right now, that type of stuff.
Yeah, definitely frustrating for sure, because from a talent and roster standpoint, the Red Sox are better than what they are playing right now. And I think the biggest thing that frustrated me was them beating themselves, because like we had talked about before, with the errors and not making the plays that they should have made, and the bats, I mean, just hit. Like, they couldn't hit. Like, their stats right now when it comes to driving in runners and scoring position is painfully bad. And I really get so aggravated whenever they have opportunities to blow up games and they just can't, because they fail to come through with runners in scoring position. I mean, even as recently as the final game of the series against Tampa Bay, they had bases loaded, 1 out, and couldn't score. They ended up winning the game 1-0 because their pitching was lights out in the whole game, but that's besides the point. They should have capitalized in that inning, and they were unable to. And that's a lot of what we've seen from the Red Sox this year. And, that series against the White Sox really made people start to wonder, is this roster more flawed than we thought? Or does it more have to do with the fact that they just got off to a slow start and they're still figuring things out? Hopefully it's the latter, and that they play a lot better this weekend than what we saw from them last weekend.
I just want O'Brien to wear that for forever, wear it around like a weight, wear it on, have him have a sign that says, I jinx the Red Sox. He needs to wear it for forever.
It'll be interesting. I am interested in seeing what that conversation between the two of them looks like on the game broadcast heading into the opening game of the series against the White Sox this weekend, because I have a feeling it's going to be a lot different.
Yeah. Finally, what does the Patriots Day game mean? Because it's going to be the White Sox and the Red Sox. I'm going to have to get used to watching a game at 10:10 because I always forget about that. What's that like in the New England area for the White Sox audience to understand?
Yeah, Patriots Day is really symbolic of the city of Boston all coming together. It's the day that the Boston Marathon gets run, and that's always a day where it's just everybody coming together to root for each other and root for just being proud of Boston and the city that it is. And after the marathon bombing back in 2013, it kind of developed even more of a meaning of unity and coming together as one city. And so Marathon Monday, Patriots Day in Boston is always just a symbol of like, we are one city, and everybody coming together to root for the same common causes. And that's just what makes it as special as it is. And just the fact that the city had been through so much, it now just makes it even more meaningful every time. And that's why playing that game as early in the day as they do, it's kind of representing like, we're playing at the same time as these marathon runners are running. So, let's highlight all the talent in Boston together as one, and everybody coming together to just root for all this talent that plays in the city. And it just becomes really special, like every year, knowing like, this city was able to overcome a lot and was able to be unified as one. So that's kind of the biggest thing about that day in particular, and what it means to the city of Boston, and why it's so important to people.
I just always thought they played the Tampa Bay Rays on Patriots Day because whenever I remember, like, oh, they're playing, like, I thought that was like part of the city ordinance that they had to play the Rays, and I'm like, wait, the White Sox are on that? Like, it was just
They played the Orioles for it before.
Okay, I just whenever I've seen the Patriots Day game, it's always like they're playing the Rays. They're playing the Rays because it
like,
usually
is that
falls
just,
on.
is it just them? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just them. All right. Well, that wraps up this crossover edition of Locked On White Sox, Locked On Red Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox and Locked On Red Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts.